Hi, welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm doing When the Guitarist is the Star. So basically albums where the guitar player is the main attraction or feature of the album. And there's some criteria that goes along with that. So I'm saying that the guitar player's name is part of the band name. The guitar player does not sing on the album. They are the lead guitarist. And also no one else in the band, especially the vocalist, is not in a sort of an equivalent or close to equal star. Sort of like a no-name kind of vocalist. The rest of the band kind of not really that well known, but the guitar player is sort of the main focus of the band. Okay, so that's my focus. That's what I'm looking at on the show today. So I mean, obviously, when you say guitarist is a star, there's lots of bands where the guitarist is very well known, is like one of the stars of the band, like, for example, AC/DC, Angus, that would be, he's a star. But then, again, Angus's name is not part of the band name. And, you've got, Bon Scott, and especially with these big name bands, almost everyone in the band's fairly well known and a bit of a star. Guns N' Roses as well. Yes, Slash is definitely one of the stars of the band, but he's not the only one. Of course, Axl Rose is a big part of that. You've got Dokken, George Lynch, even though it's the band's called Dokken, so after Don Dokken, the lead vocalist, and George Lynch was definitely a big star of this band, a big feature of it. His name's not in the band, so it was really, I think, supposed to be more about Don Dokken. The band's named after him, but certainly, George got a lot of attention for his guitar playing. And that may have had something to do with the band breaking up and not getting along. Now, this is one that almost would fit my criteria because, my criteria being that the guitarist's name is in the band name, and it is. So Van Halen, after, Eddie Van Halen, of course. So that would fit. And he does not sing lead vocals. So again, it would fit. But then my other thing was, though, the other people of the band, especially the vocalist, are not equally as much the star or as well known. And of course, especially with David Lee Roth, that's, he's a big feature of the band, very well known. I mean, any with a big band like this, as I said before, almost everyone's kind of the star because the band's so well known. And this one, of course, has Sammy Hagar on it. I mean, he came into this band very well known as well. He wasn't like some no-name that came in. He'd had his own successful solo career, been in Montrose. So doesn't quite qualify just because of the other members of the band. There's a band like Badlands, where Jakey Lee is definitely a star of the band. He'd come from Ozzy Osbourne. And you could argue that from their first album, some of the other members are lesser known, but it wasn't called the Jakey Lee Band. It was called Badlands, so it doesn't have his name in the title. And it really became very much not just about Jakey Lee, very much a very cohesive band, not a sort of a project just for Jakey Lee. So sort of now this similar. This is Blue Murder. So again, a similar example to Badlands. This time it's John Sykes, and he's come from Whitesnake, and he's formed a band. Again, though, it doesn't qualify because it's not the John Sykes band. It's called Blue Murder, even though this is much more about John Sykes, a little bit more maybe than Badlands, because also he's on vocals. So he's singing as well as playing the guitar. That initially wasn't the plan. He did try and find some vocalists, but in the end he decided to do it, and he does a great job. So I don't know why he was worried about finding vocalists. He sounds good, but it doesn't qualify for what I'm looking at today. So I want the guitarist's name in the title of the band, and of course he's even singing lead vocals, which is similar to this one here, Freddie's Comet, of course. So yes, the guitarist's name is in the band name, and certainly Ace Frehley, of course, is definitely one of the stars, or maybe the star, because everyone else, a lot less known that is in the band, but it's a band. It's called Freddie's Comet, and also Ace Frehley does do lead vocals. So I'm looking at bands where the guitarist's name's in the band name, but the guitarist does not do vocals, which is why Ted Nugent would not qualify, because he actually sings on all the songs on this album. It's a good album. He's definitely the star. He's the man, Ted Nugent. It's even it's a solo album, Ted Nugent. And definitely he's the star of the show here, but yeah, because he's doing the lead vocals, we're not going to focus on that one. Now, this one's an interesting one because it's Black Sabbath. Now, you could almost argue that the guitarist's name is in the band because in this case it's called Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi, and he is definitely the star of the band at this point because Ozzy's gone. All the original members actually are gone at this point, and it's only Tony, and he doesn't sing on this album, so it's meeting all the criteria. You could argue yes, his name is in the band name, even though it's Black Sabbath, but then they've added the featuring Tony Iommi, for reasons I guess we know why, but it doesn't really make sense, does it? Because Black Sabbath is Tony Iommi in a way. But yeah, the only thing about this is you've got Glenn Hughes on vocals. He's a fairly well-known vocalist coming from Deep Purple, so it's not like a no-name vocalist, so kind of doesn't really qualify. But from now on, the ones I'm going to show, I think they kind of meet that qualification that I'm talking about. So starting off with Michael Scheitner Group, or MSG. So he's come from UFO, formed his own band. It was just really called MSG for a long time. And he's had a number of different vocalists. I guess you'd argue, though, Graham Bonnet from Rainbow, when he was vocalist, he's kind of fairly well known. Yeah, he had, let's have a look who he had. Gary Barden. So Gary Barden's on this one here. Lesser known, so on that album. But yeah, this is the one with Graham Bonnet on it. Probably my favorite MSG album, not counting Macaulay Scheitner. That's a really good album. So, he's come from Rainbow, so that's fairly well-known name. I hadn't really heard of Rob Macaulay when this came along, but interestingly enough, they actually changed the name from the Michael Scheitner Group to Macaulay Scheitner Group. I'm guessing because it just was convenient. It's like, well, his name's Macaulay. We're calling it MSG, so we'll just add his name in there. I'm sure if his last name hadn't started with M, it still would have been called Michael Scheitner Group or MSG. But they were happy to, this is my thinking anyway, they're happy to call it Macaulay because it still makes it MSG. Like I said, he's lucky his surname started with M. Because I don't think that although he's in the front cover here, he had been in a band called Grand Prix prior to this, but not really a big name. Like I said, that had Graham Bonnet before, a much bigger name, I think, on vocals. But anyway, so then it becomes Macaulay Scheitner Group, and still, though, most people just call it MSG. And they did about 3 albums, I think, together. This is the last one I think they did together. I mean, they've got together every now and then since then. And Rob Macaulay's done some work recently, solo work and Black Swan, that sort of stuff. So he's still doing things. So that one does qualify. Another one that qualifies, kind of similar, because this guy started out in bands and then decided to go solo. So Yngwie Malmsteen. So this is his first album that actually has, so his name's in the title, he doesn't sing on it, he's the lead guitarist, and no one else in the band is particularly well known. So it fits all the criteria. So this is not the debut album, this is the one that has a vocalist. So there is a vocalist on this, it's Jeff Scott Soto, and yeah, so he's actually going to feature, interesting enough, on a few of the albums I'm going to show today. So Jeff Scott Soto on vocals. This is from 1985. And then in I think it must be 1986, this one comes out. Yeah, Trilogy. And this time, though, he's got Mark Bowles on vocals. And then he switches vocalists again for he's calling it Yngwie Malmsteen's Rising Force Odyssey. But this time, he's got another Rainbow connection here. This time, he's got Joe Lynn Turner coming in on vocals. But he only lasts 1 album. And Gordon Edmond then comes in for Eclipse and Fire and Ice. And I'll stop there because he's done a few albums since then. Now he's also, Malmsteen's also doing vocals on some of his albums now. But yeah, quite a wide selection of different vocalists on his albums from the mid to late 80s and early 90s. All right, so another one that qualifies, and he seems to be coming up on my show quite a bit at the moment, is Vinnie Vincent, Vinnie Vincent Invasion. So most people who watch my channel have seen other episodes. Now, I'm a bit of a fan of Vinnie Vincent. Of course, it's Vinnie Vincent Invasion, the invasion from Rock and Metal Invasion. The idea for that, for calling my channel Rock and Metal Invasion, comes from Vinnie Vincent Invasion. And this is his album his debut album from 1986. So it fits all the criteria. He's definitely the star. It's his name and the name of the band. He's the lead guitarist. He doesn't sing on it. And, you know, he's definitely very prominent. You definitely not like thinking, oh, you know, the guitarist, is sort of a subtle part of the music. No, he's doing full on solos here. And you can see him. I've shown this back cover before, as have other people. Pretty crazy looking back cover there. Robert Fleischman on vocals for that one, and then Mark Slaughter comes in for this one. But it sounds actually pretty similar, a little bit toned down from the first album, perhaps. But as far as the over the top guitar work, I think I talked about that last week when I was doing my top 10 from, what was I doing? 80. Well, this must have been 88. Yeah, 88. But yeah, fits all the criteria. Another one that fits the criteria, Steve Stevens, Atomic Playboys. So of course, Steve Stevens has come from Billy Idol, and yeah, so his name's in the name of the band. It's Steve Stevens, Atomic Playboys, but basically it's him. He's got Perry McCarty on vocals, who was originally the vocalist for Warrior. Not really, though, particularly well known. So he's definitely the star. There are some instrumental. I think there's one instrumental song on here. Good album, really good album. I like it. But just a one and done, though. There wasn't another one after this. Next up, Alex Maisy. So again, fitting all the criteria. He doesn't sing. He's the lead guitarist. Name's in the band. It's just his name. He also put out albums just as Maisy. So just going for the surname. On this one, we've got a return of Jeff Scott Soto, but I think he only does, he does vocals, but it's pretty much all instrumentals, this album, except for Under Fire, which is a great song. Really, that's the only reason I really bothered to have this album. I'm not a big fan of instrumental albums. I don't dislike them, but I just, I don't really go out my way to get them. But Jeff Scott Soto does vocals on Under Fire. Really great song. And then on this one, Fire in the Rain, Bernie Kay comes in on vocals. There's more vocals on this album, and yeah, that's a really good song. Fire in the Rain. Bernie Kay even goes on to form a band called Total Eclipse, and that song on Total Eclipse, Fire in the Rain, is on that album as well. So yeah, really good song. It's my favorite song, Fire in the Rain, from this album, and you can also find it on the album Bernie Kay does, Total Eclipse, on there. And then there's another one, Maisy. Now this time he's got a new vocalist. He's got David Fairfault, who not particularly well known. He was the vocalist for a band called Hawk. His vocals on that, but again, it's all really about Maisy. There's the hype sticker here, the hottest rock guitar find of 1987, returns with a brand new band. Yeah, but again, it's he's moving more into having a band, so there's more actually singing on this album. And it's okay. Now, one of my favorite examples of this, where the guitar player is the star, and it's done really well, is Axel Rudy Pell. So Axel Rudy Pell, this is Wild Obsession. Really good album, this one. This one has on vocals Rob Rock. I'm pretty sure Charlie Hunn. Rob Rock was on the previous one. Charlie Hunn, I think he used to be in Victory, actually, vocalist for Victory. And Cry of the Wild, Wildcat. Oh yeah, and my favorite of this one is Slave of Love. It's a really good song. So it's again fitting the criteria. Axel Rudy Pell is, and again, yes, he definitely features very strongly. There's lots of solos. I'm pretty sure there's some instrumentals on here, maybe one or two, but so the guitars are very prominent, but they're good songs too, really good, melodic metal. So I actually my favorite album is the one after this. I think it's after this, Eternal Prisoner, which actually has Jeff Scott Soto coming on vocals. So again, he's featuring again. That's my favorite Axel Rudy Pell album, and I really wish they'd put that one out on vinyl, but it hasn't come out on vinyl yet. But yeah, he's pretty solid. He's still going well. Axel Rudy Pell putting out albums. He'd previously been in the band Steeler, and that's pretty good. That's worth checking out too, in the sort of mid to late 80s. But his solo work is good. Like I say, he's had a few different vocalists, but good quality albums he puts out, because it's not just about the shredding and the guitar playing. There's some good songs on there. Another example that's going to fit my criteria, Vandenberg. Name of the guitarist is in the title of the band. Now they put out 3 albums. That's the best of, but this was their first one. This is, I think, this is their second one. Heading for a Storm, and their last one, Alibi. And lead vocalist was Bert Hernick. Herink. Sorry, I'm sure I'm saying that correctly, but so not well-known vocalist. Really, none of the other members of the band particularly well-known, and even at the time, Vandenberg, not the big name that he, the sort of well-known name he is going to become when he joins Whitesnake. But there we go. They did 3 albums. Now, I mentioned this person last week when I was doing my top 10 of 1988. It didn't make the top 10, but it was an honourable mention. And this is Cooney, Looking for Action. So it fits the criteria, because it's Cooney is the guitar player. He does not sing. In fact, again, it's Jeff Scott Soto on vocals. So he seems to have a bit of a habit of teaming up with guitarists and providing vocals. This is a great album. The album before that, Mask, I think is how you say it. This is the first album that Cooney put out. This one came out in '86. Just looking at the credits here at the back, so lots of big names though helping him out. He's got Billy Sheehan on bass, Frankie Banali on drums, Chuck Wright on bass. He's got Neil Turbin on vocals, Kevin DeBrode doing backing vocals. So lots of fairly well-known names coming in to help out on that album. But he's the star of the show, of course, because it's his name on the album. And he's definitely a solid guitar player. But for me, this is the one worth checking out. Strangely, from what I know, not a lot of other albums or not a lot of material from Cooney, but that I know of anyway. This is an interesting one. So this is MacAlpine. So Tony MacAlpine, he'd done some, I think, instrumental albums prior to this, but this is really like a proper band. You can see the guys there at the back. And this is actually not that heavy. It's surprisingly, it's more sort of AOR hard rock. It fits the criteria because it's got Tony MacAlpine. It's got the name of the band. The vocalist is says here vocals Bill Carmassi. He sounds pretty good, but not well known. And this is kind of a bit of a one and done sort of deal because obviously Tony MacAlpine's gone off and done other things, but the band MacAlpine, just this one album, Eyes of the World, came out in 1990, and definitely worth checking out. It's actually, I was really surprised at what it sounded like. I was expecting more shredding, but it's actually just a sort of a good solid hard rock album, quite melodic at times, but really good. Impellitteri. So again, that fits the criteria here. Chris Impellitteri is the guitarist. Does not sing on it. It's Graham Bonnet again. So he featured before with the MSG. So it's interesting how a lot of these vocalists, some of them just had a bit of a habit of teaming up with, guitar stars. Quite happy not to necessarily have their name as part of the group or be the feature attraction. And Chuck Wright. Here's Chuck Wright again. We just talked about him. In fact, this has got Pat Torpey as well on drums. He ends up in Mr. Big, of course. There we go. Not a bad album. This one's lesser known, perhaps. I'm not overly familiar with it. I mean, it's in my collection. I don't play it very much, but this is Zeno, and this features this is Uli John Roth's younger brother, Zeno Roth. He's on guitars, and Michael Flexig is the vocalist. And this came out in 1985, or 1985, I think, or 86. Subtitled Zeno. Yeah, so Zeno is not doing the vocals. He's the guitar player. And interestingly enough, they don't put out another album until 1995, which I've only got digitally, but I think it's even better than this one. It includes songs that I guess recorded after this album, but then it took a while for them to be released. So check out the 1995 Zeno album. It's really good. My last one, James Bird's, I think that's how you say his surname, Byrds, Birds, at Atlantis Rising. So it's got his name in the title of the band, although it's Atlantis Rising. I guess you could argue a little bit like Malmsteen's Rising Force. But James Bird, he was the guitarist in Fifth Angel on the first Fifth Angel album. He was the guitar player. There he is there. This is a really solid album. If you like the first Fifth Angel album, it's similar to that. Vocals on this album are done by Freddie Crummins. Yeah. And it's a solid album. Again, fits the criteria. He's not singing vocals. His name's in the title, and he's the lead guitarist. And it's a good album. And not really that well known, but if you like Fifth Angel, check that one out. All right, so there we go. So some well known titles there, some lesser known. I hope you enjoyed that. Please feel free to subscribe, leave some comments. Always love to reply to those, and I'll be back with another episode sometime soon. All right, we'll catch you later.